Hi friends, this is Sai. In my last video, I was talking about how you could grow multiple vegetables in the same container. Some of you were asking me how I manage these containers because so many things are growing in them, and how can I take care of each of these plants, how do I harvest and stuff like that. Well, today I'm going to be talking about that because right now those containers are bursting from their seams with the vegetables that I have put in them. So let's start. So this is how the container looks. You can see inside it that there is spinach, there are a couple of corns, probably one or two bitter gourd vines, and one tomato plant and another tomato plant. Probably there are also a few seedlings of this sabja because a few seeds would have fallen into it, so that also seems to be growing. So one of the things that you were asking me was how do I water these containers? So this is a small demo that I'm doing. Definitely there is no water coming out from it because I don't want all water to be here while I'm shooting this video. So usually you water somewhere like this, right? You water from the top. But once you have so many plants growing in a container, it is much better that you water here, because otherwise when you're watering on the top, most of the water tends to fall off, and you don't want that because that's only going to make your floor wet, but not much of the water is going to reach the soil where the water is really required. So another thing that we need to keep in mind is that when it rains, usually we feel that if it's a good rain, most of your containers are getting wet, your potting mix is going to get really hydrated. But be careful, if you've got this kind of a growth in your containers, most of the water is going to fall off. A bit of it is going to go inside the container, so you've just got to be careful. So the other thing that was asked was how do I harvest from these containers? Well, that's quite simple, and let me just give you a small demo. So I have my friend with me who's going to assist me in harvesting. So this is spinach, which is quite ready for harvest. Of course, you can cut spinach at various stages. So it's simply cutting it from there. And that's it. So some of you might be thinking, okay Sai, we know how to harvest a spinach plant, why did you have to take a video clip for that? Well, the reason is that some of you might not be knowing that you can cut spinach for about 3 to 4 times. So I've cut it like that, and you can wait for some time and fresh leaves are going to develop. Most of the people don't know that. The other thing is that you do not want to uproot the plant. Now this is very, very important. Sometimes just out of sheer laziness we think that okay, let's take out the plant, and especially if you're using a potting mix which contains coco peat, your potting mix is not going to be hard, which is definitely an advantage. But what happens is that sometimes you might end up taking out the whole plant. Now what happens in that case is that there is a possibility that you are going to disturb the roots of the other plants which are still there in this container, and that is a no-no. So you don't want to disturb the root system. So you can go and harvest anything which is visible, harvest it in a way where in some cases the plant is going to grow again, and definitely in a way where the root system is not disturbed. So this also is applicable whenever you want to do weeding. So if you've got a couple of weeds growing in the container and you want to remove them, cut them. Do not try to uproot it. Maybe there are some weeds which are going to come up again and again, but it is much better to cut it as low as possible, and sometimes you might just cover it up with a bit of potting mix so that it won't grow again, but do not uproot it. That is one point. The other thing that we need to also remember is that try as much as possible not to mix shoot crops with the root crops, because whenever you are harvesting root crops, they are definitely going to disturb the root zone for the shoot plants. So you've got to be careful there also. So tomatoes have a tendency for falling over, and you need to provide them with stakes. So that is exactly what I'm going to do right now. So you can use a stake like this, which is nothing but a bamboo stick that I have here. These are bamboo poles which have been sliced so that I can get 2 of these for each bamboo pole, and that is what I'm using throughout my garden. They are giving pretty good service. This is the second season running, the second year for some of them that I'm using them. Seem to be quite good. So there is another tomato in the second container, and we are just raising that also up, trying to give it a bit of support, but with so many things growing, that is not going to be sufficient. So we are going to use a bit of rope. So the main considerations for this is the type of plants which are growing in the container. Now, as you saw, I'm growing corn. With corn there is no issue because what you harvest is a corn cob, and that is going to come on the top. No issues with that. You can easily see that and harvest that. Then again, I have tomatoes, and again with tomatoes the fruit is going to be red, so that again is quite visible and easy to harvest. Along with that, I have bitter gourd. Now, anybody who's grown bitter gourd does know that it is slightly tricky to identify the bitter gourd, the fruit, because it gets mixed with the leaves. So one thing is that many people want to bring it onto the top trellis, but as I spoke in my last Facebook live, I would also prefer having some kind of a vertical trellis for that, not just a horizontal. Even a vertical trellis works great. So how I am trying to think of the small structure that I am having for each of these containers is that if there is a side wall of a side trellis, a vertical trellis, the bitter gourd can slowly climb onto that, and finally, if required, and if it is having good nutrition from the potting mix, it can go up and meet the horizontal trellis. So those are some of the basics which I am thinking of while thinking about the structure which I need for each of these containers. Now, I have spinach which was growing in it, and as I said, that spinach might regrow, and that all depends on whether it is still going to get sunlight. Sunlight is pretty crucial. Without sunlight, you are not going to get the plant. So some of you are asking me that are there other types of plant that we can grow along with these things? Yeah, as I mentioned, you can grow things like coriander, you can grow things like ceylon spinach, any type of green you can grow along with that. And whenever you want your tomato plant or your brinjal plant or your chili plant to occupy more space, you just start harvesting these so that they get more space. Probably they get more resources from your potting mix, and they can actually come out quite big, and they can give more fruits. So that is the only consideration. You can keep them till the time you think you can manage it, but after some point of time, what starts happening is that it becomes quite tedious to harvest. For example, I still have a bit of spinach inside, but if I have to harvest that, maybe there is a slight chance that I might disturb the bitter gourd vine, which I don't want to do. So sometimes you just plant stuff like coriander, which has excellent pest repellent qualities, not for harvesting, but just as a companion plant, just as a guild, which helps the other plant really grow well. So this is how it starts to take shape. You've just got to be careful that you don't tie this rope a bit down, because if you start tying it here, it might be difficult for you to harvest any of the greens which still might be coming. So for example, here there was the spinach growing. Now if I want to harvest it and this rope was somewhere here, it's going to be a bit tricky. This is a coconut rope. I really like the coconut rope because you can use it right now, and after it becomes a bit weak and you feel that it is probably not holding up well, you can still start using it in your potting mix. You can use it as mulch, so nothing really goes waste. The same goes with these sticks. So this is how the final shape starts looking. Let me just take you to another corner where this thing is quite complete. So this just reminds me of a classroom where the teacher is trying to control the unruly students. Here we have plants which want to go outside of their containers and start occupying the paths. Well, this is how you control them in a garden. There are lots of There are lots of different ways in which you can make a trellis, you can tie a trellis, or you can provide support to your plants. This is one of the way which has worked really well for me, and this is what I generally prefer because this really suits the way in which I think of a garden, the kind of jungly, unruly look which I like for my garden. This really works. Just have to be, as I said, a bit careful while you're harvesting, but that's about it. So, hope this video was useful to you. If you have any more questions, please try to ask them on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll try my best to answer them. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.